On a silent battlefield, a small alien girl kneels beside her dead mother, abandoned by the war and by the universe itself. Until one human stranger stops, looks into her frightened eyes, and makes a choice that will change the fate of worlds forever. Asterisk, if this story touches your heart, like, subscribe, and stay till the end. Because this is not just a sci-fi story. This is a story about the true power of humanity. Asterisk, the war came without warning. One moment, the sky above the alien city was calm and blue. The next, it broke open with fire. Ships like dark knives cut through the clouds. Explosions shook the tall crystal buildings. Sirens cried in strange alien voices. People ran in every direction, screaming in fear. The peaceful world was gone in seconds. Among the chaos, a tall alien woman ran through broken streets. Her blue skin was burned in places. Her breathing was heavy. In her arms, she carried a small girl tightly against her chest. The child's skin was pale like sunlight, not blue like hers. The little girl's hair was dark and messy. Her wide eyes were filled with terror. The woman did not look back. She only ran forward. Behind them, the ground exploded. Fire and smoke rushed past like a storm. Pieces of metal fell from the sky. The alien woman shielded the child with her own body. Every step was painful. Blood ran down her side, dark and thick. Still, she ran. The girl cried softly. Her small hands clutched the woman's clothing. She did not understand the war. She only knew that the world was ending and her mother was afraid. The woman reached the edge of the city. Beyond it lay empty land, broken hills, and black smoke rising everywhere. No safe place remained. A loud blast suddenly threw them into the air. They hit the ground hard. The woman rolled, keeping the child protected beneath her arms. The mother tried to stand. She failed. Her body trembled. Her strength was gone. The burning pain inside her chest grew stronger. Slowly, she fell back onto the cold ground. Her breathing became weak and broken. The little girl crawled up onto her chest. She touched the blue face gently. "Mom," she whispered. The woman's strange eyes softened. With shaking hands, she reached up and touched the girl's cheek. Her voice came out thin and weak, but full of love. "Live," she said. "No matter what. Live." Another explosion shook the world. Dust filled the air. The sky glowed red with fire. The woman's hand fell slowly from the child's face. Her eyes stayed open, but the light inside them faded. The little girl shook her gently. "Mom?" she whispered again. She did not move. The child cried quietly, her small body shaking beside the lifeless blue figure. Around her, the world was burning. Ships roared overhead. The sounds of war filled the air. But she was alone now. Completely alone. Hours passed. The fight moved far away. Night fell. Cold air wrapped around the broken land. The little girl stayed beside her mother's body, too scared to move. She had no food, no water, no home, only fear and darkness. When the sun rose again, the smoke began to clear. The battlefield lay silent. Broken machines and burned ground stretched in every direction. The little girl finally stood up. Weak and shaking, she took one last look at her mother. Then she turned and walked. She walked for a long time until her legs grew tired. Her lips were dry. Her stomach hurt with hunger. She stumbled, fell, and stood again. The world felt empty, dead, unkind. And then she heard a different sound. Footsteps. Heavy boots crushed the dirt behind her. The girl froze in fear. She slowly turned around. A human soldier stood there. His armor was scratched and burned. His helmet was off. Dust covered his face. He looked tired, angry, and broken inside. A long weapon hung from his shoulder. His eyes moved over the battlefield with sharp focus. He had not expected to see a child, especially not a human child on an alien world. They stared at each other in silence. The girl's legs gave out. She fell to her knees, too weak to run. Tears slipped down her dirty face. She hugged herself, waiting for pain, for death, for anything. But it did not come. The soldier slowly lowered his weapon. He took one careful step forward. "Hey, it's okay," he said softly. His voice was the first kind sound the girl had heard since the war began. She did not understand his words clearly, but she heard the kindness. The fear inside her hesitated. The soldier knelt down slowly, making sure not to scare her. He saw the burns on her arms, the dirt on her face, the empty look in her eyes. He looked past her and saw the blue body lying far behind. The truth hit him like a knife. He understood. The soldier swallowed hard. His jaw tightened. War had taken many lives, but this hurt in a different way. "You're alone now," he whispered. The girl looked up at him. Her eyes were filled with pain, far too big for someone so small. She nodded once. The soldier reached into his pack and pulled out a small water bottle. He slowly placed it near her hand. She was afraid at first, but thirst was stronger. With shaking fingers, she grabbed it and drank. Water spilled down her chin. She coughed softly. The soldier gave a small, sad smile. "My name is Ethan," he said. "I won't leave you." The girl stared at him, for the first time since her mother died. Hope flickered weakly in her broken heart. Not far away, hidden eyes watched them from the shadows of the ruined land. And high above them, unknown forces began to move once more. The war was not over, and the child's true journey had only just begun. Ethan did not stop walking until the strange battlefield was far behind them. Smoke still rose into the sky like dark fingers. The alien city was now only a shadow on the horizon. The little girl followed him without a word, her steps slow and weak. Every few moments she looked back, as if afraid the fire would chase her again. Ethan slowed his pace so she could keep up. He gave her small pieces of dry food from his pack. She ate quietly, like a scared animal that did not yet trust the hand that fed it. By nightfall, they reached the edge of a broken forest. The trees were tall and dark, with leaves like metal glass. Strange sounds moved through the shadows. Ethan set up a small fire between two fallen stones. He wrapped the girl in his jacket. She was shaking from cold and fear. When the fire warmed her face, she finally closed her eyes. Sleep pulled her down fast. Like her body could not fight anymore, Ethan stayed awake. His hand never left his weapon. His eyes searched the dark again and again. Something was wrong. The battlefield had gone silent too fast. Wars did not end like that. Not clean. Not quiet. And the way those hidden eyes had watched them earlier, he could still feel it on his skin like a crawling shadow. He added more fuel to the fire and stayed alert. The girl moved in her sleep. She whispered strange words in a language he did not know. Tears slid from the corners of her closed eyes. Ethan clenched his jaw. Whatever she was still just a child, and someone had hunted her mother down. Near midnight, the forest moved. Not the wind. Not animals. Heavy steps pressed the ground. Slow. Controlled. Hunters. Ethan felt it before he saw it. The fire flickered. Shadows stretched long across the trees. He reached for the girl and lifted her gently into his arms. He moved back behind the rocks. He covered her mouth softly so she would not cry out. 3 tall figures stepped into the firelight. Their armor was black and smooth like liquid metal. Their eyes glowed pale green. Their heads moved slowly, scanning the dark. On their shoulders were strange symbols burned into steel. Ethan had seen those symbols before. Elite trackers, not normal soldiers. These ones were sent only when something important was lost. One of the hunters raised a device. It hummed softly. A thin beam of blue light moved over the ground. Over the fire, over the broken stones. It stopped, pointed straight at Ethan. His heart slammed hard into his chest. Run. The thought hit him at the same time as the weapons fired. The night exploded with sound. Ethan turned and ran. Energy blasts tore through the air where he had been standing. Trees burst apart behind him in showers of sparks and glasswood. He crashed through bushes, holding the girl tight against his chest. She screamed once, then he covered her again with his arm. "Don't look," he whispered fiercely. He ran like hell. The forest became chaos. Light flashed between the trees. Heat burned along his back. One blast clipped his shoulder. Pain exploded down his arm. He nearly fell but forced himself to keep going. He jumped over fallen roots, slid down rocky slopes, pushed through sharp branches that cut into his skin. The hunters did not slow. They followed without sound, like death itself. Ethan burst from the trees onto open land. A deep cliff appeared in front of him. Below it was darkness, fog thick and swirling. A river roared far beneath like an angry beast. No way back. No time to think. Turned as one hunter stepped from the shadows. Weapon rising. Ethan jumped. They fell through cold air. The girl screamed. The world spun and shattered. They hit the river hard. Water crushed them under. The current tore at Ethan's body like hands trying to pull him apart. He fought to stay above the surface, gasping for air, keeping the child's head up. The river slammed him against rocks again and again. Blood mixed with the dark water. His strength faded fast. Just as his vision began to turn black. The river threw them into a quiet space. Along the shore, he dragged himself onto land. The world went silent. For a long time, he could not move. Then he felt small hands shaking his face. "Wake up," the girl whispered. He opened his eyes slowly. Pain burned everywhere, but he was alive. Hing left in the world. "It's okay," he said weakly. "You're safe. For now." But he did not believe his own words. They hid inside a narrow cave behind hanging stone. The river masked their heat and scent. Ethan treated his wound as best he could. Blood still seeped through. The girl watched him closely, her eyes filled with quiet fear and deep focus far beyond her age. When the pain settled, something strange happened. The girl raised her small hand. The air around it shimmered. Light bent. The stone near her hand softened like wax. Ethan froze. "What are you?" he whispered. The girl pulled her hand back in fear, as if she had shown something dangerous by mistake. Her eyes glowed faintly for one short second. Then it vanished. She hugged herself. "I don't know," she said softly. "Mom said I must hide." Ethan felt the truth crash into him like a wave. Those hunters were not after her mother. They were after her, high above the river canyon. The black-armored hunters stood at the cliff edge, looking down into the fog. "One lives," one of them said. "Begin phase 2, the leader replied. At the same time, far across the galaxy, ancient systems began to awaken, and the universe quietly shifted its focus to one small human girl who should not exist. The cave stayed quiet for a long time, but silence did not bring peace. Ethan could still hear the river outside, heavy and endless, like it was counting their last moments over and over again. The girl sat close to him near the stone wall, her knees pulled tight to her chest. The faint glow that had shone around her hand was gone now, but the memory of it burned inside Ethan's mind. He had seen many strange things in war, but nothing like that. A child bending stone like it was soft clay was not normal. Not even in alien space. He pushed himself up slowly. His wound burned, but he ignored the pain. He checked the cave opening again, careful not to make sound. The fog still floated low across the river. No movement, no light. But deep in his bones he felt the hunt had not ended. The girl suddenly stiffened. "They are still near," she whispered. Ethan turned sharply. "How do you know?" She touched her chest with 2 fingers. "I feel them. Like cold hands inside my heart." His blood ran colder than the river outside. Before he could speak, the ground trembled. A low vibration rolled through the cave walls. Small rocks fell from the ceiling. The river changed its sound, as if something dark had entered its flow. "They found us?" Ethan whispered. The girl shook her head slowly. "Not with eyes." A thin blue light suddenly sliced through the fog outside. Then another. Then 3 more. The cave entrance glowed faintly as beams swept across the rocks. Ethan pulled the girl deeper into the shadows just as a low metallic voice echoed across the water. "Target signal unstable. Human male detected. Child confirmed alive." Ethan's grip tightened around his weapon. He had no clear shot. They still could not see him clearly, but they knew where he was. Then something worse happened. The girl screamed. Not in fear, in pain. She fell to her knees, clutching her head. Her body shook violently. The air around her rippled like heat above fire. The stone floor beneath her hands cracked in thin spider lines. Ethan dropped beside her. "Hey, stay with me. Look at me. You're safe. You're safe." But she was not listening. Images flooded her mind without warning. Burned skies. Blue blood on silver ground. Her mother falling. Black armor closing in. A voice that was not a voice. Pressing into her thoughts. Like a command, her eyes snapped open. They were not brown anymore. They were glowing white. The cave exploded with light. Ethan was thrown backward, hard into the stone wall. His breath left his lungs in one sharp burst. The beams outside shattered against an invisible force like glass hitting steel. The hunters shouted for the first time, sharp and angry. The light vanished. Silence dropped again. When Ethan forced himself up, the girl was lying unconscious on the floor. Smoke curled from the stone around her hands. Outside, the hunters were gone. No sound. No movement. Just empty fog. Hours passed without a single sign of them returning. When the girl finally woke, she was weak and shaking. Ethan helped her sit up and gave her water. She drank slowly, tears slipping down her face. "They showed me everything," she whispered. "What everything?" Ethan asked. "They showed me why I was made." His heart skipped hard. "Made?" he said. She nodded slowly. "I was not born like other children. My mother made me with human blood. And something older than stars." Ethan stared at her in shock. "My real mother was human," the girl continued softly. "She was taken in the war, before this war. They used her. They used her body to make me. The Blue Mother saved me. She raised me. They hunted her for hiding me." Ethan felt like the ground had vanished under his feet. "You are saying you are both?" he whispered. She nodded again. "Both sides want me," she said. "One to use me. One to kill me." High above the planet, far beyond the river and the hunted cave, a massive command ship drifted in silence. Inside it, walls moved like living metal. Screens glowed with ancient symbols older than any human language. A tall figure stood before the main display, its shape shifting slowly like smoke trapped inside armor. Its eyes watched the live signal of the girl's power spike. "So the weapon still lives," the figure said. "Yes, Master," another voice replied. "The human protector interferes." The tall figure lifted one long finger. "Then bring me the child. And break the human." Back in the cave, the ground began to shake again. But this time, it was not the hunters. It was something far larger. Something that did not walk. Something that woke up. Ethan felt the air grow thick and heavy. He lifted the girl into his arms as the stone walls groaned like they might split apart. "Whatever you are," he said softly into her hair, "you're not a weapon to me. She buried her face into his chest, and above them, the planet itself seemed to whisper a warning, because the war that had destroyed worlds was now chasing two small lives, and humanity had just stepped into the center of it. Asterisk. The ground shook again. Stronger this time. Stone dust fell from the cave ceiling. A deep sound rolled through the rock like a giant heartbeat waking up beneath the planet's skin. Ethan ran with the girl in his arms as the cave wall cracked behind them. They burst back into the open river fog just as the cave mouth collapsed inward with a thunderous crash. River twisted wildly as if afraid of what was rising below. Ethan did not stop to look back. He ran along the rocky shore, slipping on wet stone, holding the girl as tightly as his injured arm allowed. His breath burned. His legs screamed. Behind him, something massive moved beneath the ground. The earth rose and fell like waves on the sea. Far away, tall shapes climbed out of broken land. Slow and endless like moving mountains. The girl lifted her head weakly from his chest. They woke the watcher. She whispered. Ethan had no idea what that meant. But he knew one thing. Nothing that could wake mountains was small. A sudden roar cut through the air. A human dropship burst from the clouds above the canyon. Its engines screamed like thunder. Lights swept across the fog. A mechanical voice echoed loudly. Human survivor detected. Prepare for emergency pickup. Ethan felt a rush of relief so strong his knees almost gave out. He waved one arm wildly while shielding the girl with the other. The ship lowered fast on ropes and metal claws. Soldiers dropped down with weapons ready, forming a tight circle around them. Hands grabbed Ethan, pulling him inside. The girl clung to him in panic, but he held her close. The ship lifted fast, rockets burning white through the fog. Below them, the ground cracked fully open. A massive eye larger than the dropship itself opened. Deep beneath the planet's skin, it watched them leave. Inside the ship, medics rushed to Ethan. They pulled him onto a metal bed, cutting away burned armor. The girl would not leave his side. She held his hand with both of hers, as if he might vanish if she let go. Soldiers whispered nervously around them. More than once, eyes moved to the child with unease. One officer stepped forward. His uniform was clean, his rank high. His face was sharp with control. "I am Commander Hale," he said. "You will explain everything." Ethan looked up at him through pain and exhaustion. "There's no time for slow questions," Ethan said. "They are after her. Not the battlefield. Not the city, her." The girl shrank closer to him. Hale's eyes narrowed in a way that felt dangerous. "She is a child," Ethan continued. "Not a weapon." Hale said nothing. The ship flew for hours through dark space before finally descending into a massive, hidden human base built inside an asteroid field. Giant steel walls opened silently. Rows of ships waited in the hangars like sleeping predators. Soldiers filled the halls. Screens glowed with incoming war reports and weapon data. Ethan was taken to the medical wing. The girl was placed on a bed beside him. Machines scanned her silently. Doctors whispered to each other in low voices. "She's stable," one said. "But her energy readings are not human." Ethan heard every word. Commander Hale watched from the far side of the room through clear glass. "No," Hale whispered. "She's not." That night, while Ethan slept under medication, they came for the girl. At first, she thought it was a dream. White light filled the room. Cold hands lifted her gently. No voices were kind. No one met her eyes. Fear returned like a storm inside. Her chest. Ethan woke too late. His bed was empty beside him. The monitors were dark. The room was silent. "Where is she?" he demanded as he ripped free of his medical cords. No one answered him. He ran through the metal halls in bare feet, blood still seeping through fresh bandages. Soldiers tried to stop him. He broke past them. Panic drove him faster than pain. Behind it, he could feel her. Open it. He shouted. Two guards raised weapons instead. The door opened anyway, from inside. Bright white light spilled into the hall. The girl floated several feet above the floor inside a ring of metal machines. Energy wrapped around her like living light. Her body trembled. Her eyes were wide and glowing again. Commander Holly stood at a control panel. "We need to know what she is," Holly said calmly, "before the enemy uses her to end us." "She is not yours," Ethan roared. "She is humanity's only chance." Holly replied. The girl screamed. The machine surged with power. The base lights flickered. Screens shattered. Gravity twisted. Somewhere deep inside the asteroid, metal began to tear itself apart. Ethan ran forward into the storm. The guards fired. He did not stop. Blast struck his side and threw him across the room. Blood sprayed against the floor. His vision blurred, but he forced himself to crawl forward. The girl saw him. The energy around her shattered outward in a violent shockwave. Every soldier in the room was hurled backward like paper. Machines ripped from their mounts. Holly was thrown hard into the wall, coughing blood as he slid down. The girl dropped from the air into Ethan's arms. For a moment, everything was silent. Then alarms screamed across the entire base. "The Watcher is moving." Someone shouted over the speakers. Ethan held the trembling child tightly. "You see?" he whispered through blood and pain. "You wake monsters. When you forget she's just a girl." Outside the base, the ancient thing beneath the planet began to rise toward the stars. And the war, which humanity thought it controlled, had just chosen its true battlefield. The alarms did not stop. They screamed through every hall of the human base, like a warning to the entire species. Red light flashed across metal walls. Ships launched in panic from open bays. Outside the asteroid, space itself seemed to shake as something vast and ancient pushed closer from the dark. Ethan carried the girl through, falling smoke and sparks. Soldiers ran past them in every direction. Some shouted orders. Some prayed. Some froze in fear. The base that once felt like the strongest place in human space now felt small and fragile. "She's waking the monster," one soldier whispered as they passed. "No," Ethan said through clenched teeth. "You woke it." The girl pressed her face into Ethan's chest. Her small body burned with heat he could barely touch. Light pulsed under her skin like a second heart trying to break free. Every step he took felt heavier, like the gravity of the entire planet was pulling on them. They reached the hangar just as the first shockwave hit. The asteroid base shuddered violently. Fighters were torn from their docks like toys. Metal screamed as it bent and broke. Deep in space beyond the hangar shield, the Watcher rose fully into sight. It was not a ship, it was not a creature, it was a living world of armor and stone and ancient fire. Its eye opened again. And this time, it saw everything. Humans, ships, the girl. Fear swept through the hangar like a living thing. Some soldiers dropped to their knees. Others ran for their ships in blind panic. The Watcher lifted part of its massive body, and space folded around it like thin cloth. "The base won't survive one strike," a pilot shouted. Ethan knew they had only seconds. He ran for the last open transport ship at the far end of the hangar. A young pilot saw him coming and hesitated. "That child is the reason it's here." The pilot shouted. Ethan stopped in front of the ship. "Ramp, she's also the only reason it hasn't destroyed us already," he said. The girl lifted her head. Slowly, her eyes glowed bright white again. Watcher froze mid-motion. The entire universe seemed to hold its breath. The girl looked straight through space, straight into the giant eye of the ancient thing. "I know you," she whispered. Voice did not travel through air. It traveled through everything. The Watcher answered. Not with sound, with memory. Ethan fell to his knees as images hit his mind like a storm. Not just his memories, the Watcher's memories. Stars being born. Worlds dying. Civilizations rising and falling like waves. It had been built to guard something long forgotten. Built to wake only when the balance was broken. The girl screamed, not in pain, in truth. They made me to break the balance. She cried. To control you. To rule everything. The Watcher trembled. Energy gathered along its vast body. Inside the hangar, people believed the end had come. Ethan pulled the girl close. If the universe wants you to be a weapon, he said softly, blood running down his face, then we'll teach the universe it picked the wrong child. Her shaking slowed. Her light changed. For the first time. It was not wild. It was steady. The Watcher lowered its massive head, slightly. Listening. Commander Halle stumbled into the hangar, wounded and desperate. His eyes locked onto the child with madness and fear mixed together. You don't understand. He shouted. She can command it. With her, we can end every war forever. Ethan stood slowly, placing his body between Halle and the girl. You don't end war by becoming the monster. Ethan said. Halle raised his weapon. Girl looked at him. Just once. And the weapon turned to dust in his hands. Halle fell to his knees in horror. The Watcher pulled back its energy. Slowly. The ancient fire across its body dimmed. It turned away from the human base. Not attacking. Not destroying. Choosing. Every screen in the hangar exploded with data. Scanners went wild. The impossible had just happened. The Watcher had obeyed a child. The hangar fell into stunned silence. The pilot opened the transport ramp slowly. Ethan carried the girl inside. As the ship lifted away, the Watcher drifted back into deep space, like a god returning to sleep. Behind them, the human base, damaged, broken, terrified, still existed, for now. Inside the transport ship, the girl finally collapsed from exhaustion. Her glow faded. Her small body went cold and weak again. Ethan held her tightly as medics worked fast to keep her alive. She used too much, one whispered. Her body may not survive another moment like that. Ethan closed his eyes in pain. Far away, unseen by humans, the enemy command ship watched the Watcher retreat. The tall, shifting figure stood in silence for a long time. Then it spoke. So, the human has taught the weapon to disobey. Its shape darkened. Then we will not chase the child anymore. The other voice hesitated. Then what will we do, Master? The figure turned its gaze toward Earth's distant light. We will burn the species that taught her hope. And across human space, ancient war engines long buried began to awaken. The final war was no longer coming. It had already started. Asterisk, the stars began to burn, not with light, but with war. Across human space, ancient enemy war engines rose from hidden dark zones. Black fleets moved like storms between systems. Worlds went silent one by one. Warning signals flooded every human channel. The enemy had chosen Earth as its final target, and the girl felt it before anyone else. She woke inside the transport ship screaming. Ethan caught her as she tried to sit up. Pain ripped through his wounded body, but he ignored it. Medics rushed in, trying to calm her. Her eyes glowed weakly again, trembling like dying stars. They are coming, she cried. All of them. Earth had only hours. Human fleets gathered in desperation. Old ships. New ships. Mining ships turned into weapons. Every nation, every station, every colony sent what they had. The sky above Earth filled with metal wings. Ethan stood on the command deck of a carrier, ship as soldiers prepared for the last stand. The girl stood beside him, small and shaking. Screens showed the enemy fleet approaching like a wall that never ended. Commander Halle was gone. The base was gone. Only humanity remained. You don't have to do this, Ethan said quietly to the girl. Whatever happens, you already saved more lives than most ever will. She looked up at him with tired, steady eyes. "They didn't make me to save," she said softly. "They made me to end." Outside the carrier, the enemy fleet entered firing range. The universe tore open with light. Lasers ripped through space. Human ships vanished in fire. Explosions painted the dark with death. Fighters fell by the hundreds. The sound of war filled every channel with screaming static. Ethan felt every loss like a knife. Inside his chest, the girl stepped forward toward the open hangar doors. "Stop," Ethan said. She turned back to him. "If I don't," she whispered, "everyone dies." Her body began to glow again, stronger than ever before. The metal floor beneath her feet softened. Gravity warped around her small shape. The entire carrier ship trembled. Ethan ran forward and pulled her into his arms. "Then let them remember you as the girl who lived," he said. "Not the weapon who burned the stars." Her glow flickered. The enemy command ship pushed through the human line, massive and dark like a living moon. The tall, shifting figure appeared on every screen at once. "Weapon," it spoke inside the girl's mind. "Come to us." Ethan felt her shaking increase. "They still think I belong to them," she said. "No," Ethan replied. "You belong to yourself." The enemy command ship fired its main weapon, a beam of pure collapse. Energy struck the carrier. The hangar began to tear apart. Ethan was thrown backward hard into the wall. Blood ran from his mouth. His vision blurred. Through the chaos, he saw the girl standing alone in the open hangar as space ripped apart around her. She turned one last time and looked at him. "Thank you for showing me I was real," she said. Then she stepped into space. The vacuum did not touch her. Light exploded outward from her body like a newborn sun. The enemy fleet froze. The Watcher returned. It did not rise from one world this time. It rose from the dark behind all worlds. Its full form unfolded across the stars like a living galaxy of stone and fire. But it did not act alone. The girl floated before it, glowing white and gold. "I was made to control you," she said into the universe. "But I choose to free you." The chains inside the Watcher shattered. The ancient being did not obey her. It stood with her. Together, they turned toward the enemy command ship. The enemy fired. Everything. The universe answered once. A single wave of white force rolled outward. Enemy ships vanished without explosion. No fire. No sound. Just silence. The war ended in one breath. Watcher's light dimmed slowly. The girl's glow faded. With it, her body began to fall. Ethan screamed and ran through the broken hangar as gravity returned. He leaped into a rescue pod as it launched automatically toward her falling form. Space closed around him. He caught her just before she vanished into the dark. She was cold now. So very cold. He pulled her into his arms as the pod returned to the carrier. Medics worked with shaking hands. Minutes passed. Then silence filled the room. Ethan bowed his head. "She chose," he whispered. A small hand moved. His head